Hello and welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. This week, whaling in Mythic Europe. There are 3 techniques for whaling in Mythic Europe. Covenants might participate in any of these. The first is passive gathering. Whales beach themselves or die in the Atlantic and are washed up on the western shores of Europe. Beached living whales are eaten. Sometimes the frigid sea keeps dead whales fresh enough to harvest their meat and their oil. Often they're terribly decayed and filled with noxious gases. Characters harvesting from these whales need to remember that bad air, or terrible smells, cause disease in Mythic Europe by unbalancing the humours. Some fishermen are simply lucky. They see a whale near the surface and they strike it with a spear and then manage to track it. Whale driving, similarly, is a matter of luck. Whale drives are community affairs as they work best with a flotilla of boats. The goal is to force the whales toward a beach in the hope that they will strand. Norwegian whalers tend to use this method on an impromptu basis. If a group of fishermen spot a pod of whales, they try a drive. There's not a lot of evidence for professional whaling expeditions among the Norse in this period. Whale meat is considered fish for the purposes of fasting. This makes it particularly welcome during the lengthy periods of Lent and Advent when meat is frowned upon. The tongue of the whale is considered a particular delicacy, and, for example, although the whalers of Biarritz near Bayonne are tax exempt, they deliver all the whale tongues to their bishop as a voluntary levy. Whale blubber is a mixture of fat and collagen. It's flensed from the whale and oil is rendered from it by a process called frying out in English. This involves heating strips of blubber in big cauldrons called trypots, and a place where trypots are used is called a tryworks. In some places, the crispy residue of fried blubber is eaten. Whale oil is a wonderful light source. In Brilliant, Jane Brox notes the widespread use of whale oil reduced the cost of lighting a house remarkably, making artificial light far more practical. Whale oil does, however, have a strong fishy odour, made worse by burning, so it was never as popular as candles among the wealthy. Confusingly, whale bones are used for various tasks, much as ivory would be, but Mythic Europeans seeking whale bone are seeking baleen. Baleen is a type of keratin found in the mouth of whales. It supports a sieve of hair used to filter water for food. Baleen softens when boiled in water, which makes it easy to mould. The final way of catching whales in Mythic Europe is to skewer each whale with an arrow or spear to which has been attached a line and a drogue. A drogue is a thing that drags and generally floats. This allows hunters to follow the injured animal until it dies, then secure it and tow it to shore. The drogue method is used by Basque whalers in 1220, but is not known in many of the other whaling nations. It appears in the 16th century in England, the Netherlands, and Norway. There is some argument if the Vikings used it, but if they did, they didn't pass it on to anyone except the Basques. The trade can be traced back about 120 years, but only during the game period is it spreading through the Basque territories with royal charters to warehouse whale products being issued to various port towns by the French and Spanish crowns. The Basques have watchtowers along the coast of the Bay of Biscay, from which they look out for the right whale, which literally means the correct whale. It has a distinctive doubled waterspout. They also take the closely related bowhead whale. These 2 species swim slowly and contain a lot of fat, which is valuable not only for sale, but because it makes their cadavers buoyant. Basques might also take grey and sperm whales. Baleen, called whalebone, is used to make things that need to be both strong and flexible. This is why it was used in clothes in the real world until steel underwiring became cheaper. Baleen is mentioned in some Welsh and Irish folklore. It's sometimes called whale eyelashes, and is used to make accoutrements like belt buckles. In this form it is carved, resulting in products like scrimshawed ivory. There is a tiny amount of real-world archaeology which indicates baleen armour and prowess in Wales. This style of armour is found in the New World. In Inuit examples, it's a composite of leather and moulded plates, each plate being made with multiple layers of baleen. It's a laminar armour, that is, it's made of overlapping plates, like the Imperial Roman lorica segmentata. In Europe, it would probably be a lamellar armour, that is, non-overlapped plates, because that was the common technology until the rise of plate. To model baleen armour, a troop should decide how realistic they want such an exotic substance to be. It could be as protective as leather or metal scale armour, and a covenant that uses baleen to mould suits could make something with as much coverage but less durability as metal plate. Like tailored metal plate, baleen suits could not be swapped between wearers. Whale baleen is generally white or ivory coloured, though many baleen items darken to brown through use. The baleen of the right whale, which is the preferred species for harvest, is, however, black. There are various myths about whales. Many people suggest they're demons. That aside, there are two main myths. Whales are reputed to summon fish to their mouths with a sweet perfume. This is a significato, that's a hint on the meaning of life embedded in creation by God. The whale represents the devil, or the mouth of hell, and the sweet perfume is temptation. Humans, seeing the whale, are meant to consider their spiritual state. Whales are also said to impersonate islands, floating on the surface until trees grow on them, and then when a ship lands, the whale submerges, and they then eat the sailors. There are, notably, some authors in period who suggest that this is rubbish, but others who insist that it occurs. Some quick call-outs. Thanks to Jason for his question on the blog, which led to me recording this episode. Faith and Flame describes the Basques in some details, and they are the premier whalers in period. Whales are described under a variety of names in the various bestiaries for earlier editions of the game. The most comprehensive book I found on whaling in the period is Monstrous Fishes and the Mead Dark Sea, Whaling in the Medieval North Atlantic, by Vicky Szabo, that's Szabo. The transcripts for this episode, available on the blog, include a table of form and material bonuses for whale products. I'm not going to read that into audio because I've already attempted it and cut it out. It sounds too strange. I would, however, like to flag two notes because they tie in as story hooks. Whale bones are used structurally, that is, as architectural features to support weight in buildings by some people in Atlantic coastal communities. There are apparently even small huts constructed entirely out of whalebone. These may be used as mystagogic initiation sites, useful for troops who are using the mystery cult rules. Secondly, there's a meme going around the internet at the moment about how many of your enemies you'd need to slay to make a single sword out of the iron in their blood. If you kill a whale, you can make all kinds of things out of the iron in its blood. But having created such a strange weapon, what fairies will be drawn to it? So thanks again to Jason Tondoro for the question that led to this recording.